Hello, with Renewed Hope, I'm Keegan Tatum. Today we're joined by John Knox White, City Council member in the City of Alameda. John is the former Planning Board President and is the former Chair of the Alameda Transportation Commission. John Knox White, thank you for joining us.
Of course, happy to be here.
You received the most votes in 2018's election out of the 5 candidates. Do you feel that you have a mandate based off of the policies that you were campaigning for?
No, I certainly, I think if you look at the votes, I received over 50%, or about 50% of the votes that were cast for council. A mandate, my style is to really bring people together and work on things, but I definitely think it shows that the work I've done and my approach is well supported, and I expect to be working hard on the issues I campaign on. Absolutely.
Right. So we'll get to the issues in just a sec, but so you received a good number of votes from progressive people,
Sure,
as well as conservatives. I mean, I was talking with old white dude conservatives at my train club, and they all really liked you. Why do you think that is that you were able to appeal across the political spectrum here in Alameda?
I've been involved in politics for 16 years in Alameda, and I think over that time I've really learned how to listen to people. And we don't always have to agree. We don't always have to come to the same conclusion. But I think that while I have strong opinions and I have strong perspectives, I think I've really gone out of my way to really try to make sure that not only am I just hearing what people are saying, but that I'm able to try to consider those thoughts and meet people where they are. Also, to even if we have strong disagreements, to treat people with respect. And I think that at the end of the day, those are the kinds of things that voters are really looking for.
When you were going around campaigning, what were the issues that were the main focus for voters? Like what policies?
Traffic, housing costs, homelessness, sea level rise, and to a small amount, the city budget.
Okay, so what are your policy goals, and get as specific as you can?
What are my policy goals?
Yes, heading into the new session.
As I would like to see, in 4 years, I would like to see us have a transportation plan that envisions where we want to be in the future, and that is well underway. I think housing is a critical need in our region, and our city has a really important part in playing that, an important part to play in that, in fixing that. But the transportation and traffic impacts of housing often get in the way of being able to really have a good conversation about what needs to be done. I think if we can start to show the successes we're having with our transportation plans,
Such as?
Like Alameda Landing was our first project that was really required to provide ongoing transportation mitigation fees, run shuttles, etc. Only a third of the people living in Alameda Landing, which is the housing over by Target, are driving by themselves to work. It's about half the rate of the rest of Alameda. Nobody that I know is saying that the new housing is going to generate no traffic, but we can significantly reduce the traffic that our housing generates, and we can take the lessons that we learn in these new projects and actually start to work with neighborhoods around the city to start reducing the amount of traffic coming from those housing units as well, and that can really offset the impacts from the growth. But we know that we have a historic street grid. We're not going to be building big newer roads. Putting more cars on our roads, whether they be 880 or Central Avenue, is not going to have a good output, and so we need to find a way to make the transportation system work for people, meet them where they are, make it reliable, make it convenient, so that people, when they are able and when they want to, can choose to do things other than drive themselves to downtown Oakland.
So, in terms of transportation, are we looking at more public transit? Are we looking at BART and Alameda? Are we looking at buses? What are we looking at?
Yes. So, I think we need to make our streets feel safer for walking. It needs to be safer for people to bike. The test I have there as a family, just not a biking crazy family. Every family should feel that it is safe for them to send their 11-year-old child out on the street to go visit a friend 2 neighborhoods away on bike without a parental chaperone, and that the streets have been are safe enough for those children to do that. But yeah, of course, more bikes. BART is, it's a 40 or 50-year project, but we should be right there at the table pushing for that. That would be a huge missed opportunity for moving cars out of our tubes and bridges. We should be looking for how to get people across the estuary. That is the number one place we can reduce trips is getting people to Oakland without driving.
So there was talk about a bike-only bridge that goes from Alameda to Oakland. Are you a proponent of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I was on the planning board, I got the planning board to require land at Alameda Landing be set aside for that purpose. And the city has been working with the Port of Oakland and Caltrans to identify a way of moving forward. And I'm hopeful that this year we'll be kicking off a feasibility study for that bridge so that we can really get into the nitty-gritty and determine what are the costs of that, what's the cost of operating it, and what is the real feasibility of it.
Okay, so now in my talking with people, housing was the number one issue.
Yeah,
so the cost of housing, how can we address this? What can city council do? What can you do on city council? What kind of policies can be pushed?
Sure, I think if there were mandates passed, we had a out-of-town corporation spend $750,000 to put something on the ballot and run an anti-rent control measure, and it lost badly. Measure K, that is. Measure K, that is. And I think so. In the short term, we need to put in place policies that really make sure that the people who live here are able to continue doing so. Such as just cause. We know, because the landlords did a poll, that 75% of Alamedans support just cause. Nobody should lose their home just because somebody wants to kick them out and make a buck. We know it's popular, and we need to be talking about it, and we need to look at how we can implement that. I think we should be looking at the cap. Right now we have annual 5% increases that are happening, and I think that might be a little too high. But I think that's a part of a community conversation that needs to happen. On the long term, we need to be building our fair share of housing, and we need to make sure that we have policies in place that are allowing that housing to get built quickly, and we need to make sure that we have policies in place that are building the missing middle of housing, so smaller units, things that the market can bear at lower cost to people who want to purchase, people who want to rent. Lastly, I think we need to be identifying the barriers to people building accessory dwelling units in their yards. I live on a block in which almost every single house in my block has some form of second unit in it, whether it be inside a historic building or as a historically built second unit in the backyard. It's a great way to increase housing availability in our city, while at the same time not really changing the physical character of the city. To address long-term needs in housing and housing production, it needs to start with looking at our general plan, and I think we should be looking at what Minneapolis has done, eliminating single-family home zoning completely, looking at what San Diego has done, eliminating height limits. These are both big cities. That may not be the appropriate end result, but I think that we need to start from a place of asking ourselves, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? What are the roots and causes of some of these policies that we put in place in the 60s and 70s and just never thought about again?
So Measure A would be the type of roadblock that we need to get through?
I think the city has made a very solid case that Measure A is not legal. We have avoided lawsuits in the past because the city has found creative ways to build in places where higher density housing really should be built. I don't personally think we need to go into every single historic neighborhood in Alameda and start building 10-story apartment buildings. But I do think that we can be thoughtful about where we have the infrastructure to fit it, transportation and other infrastructure to address it. Looking at places that we could upzone and allow for more dense buildings.
So I got my hands on a study that the city conducted. It was a survey. About 3 out of 4 Alamedans wanted an increase in minimum wage. Now this was in the lead up to increasing it to 15, but only 1 year faster than the state.
Right.
In Alameda, I did my own calculations on this. You need about $20 an hour just to barely get by, and that assumes no student loan debt, that assumes no credit card debt, that assumes no child dependency. So what is your opinion on the current minimum wage? It will go into effect. It will be $15 an hour by 2021. Does it need to be higher in Alameda? What does it need to be?
Well, I think right now we're in the middle of raising it. I think I'm not confident a city the size of Alameda in a major metropolitan region like we are could go out to 20 first and really not see negative impacts on our economic situation. I think that we need to be a strong voice for making sure that people are making a fair and livable wage, not just in our city but more regionally.
Negative impacts such as what?
Businesses that have a hard time surviving because they would be competing with people, just the other side of the estuary, who wouldn't be paying those fees. I think one of the things that makes it easier for a city of our size to pass the $15 minimum wage is that all of our neighbors are also doing the same thing, and I think it should be a regional conversation.
So Emeryville has a $19 minimum wage. Do you think that Alameda could go 17, 18? Could it go higher than 15? Are you going to push for that?
Not at this point. Let's get to 15, and we'll figure out where we're going from there.
So there have been many studies into the minimum wage.
Yes.
So Seattle, for example, raised it to 15.
Yes.
There was no decrease in employment.
Yep.
In fact, unemployment went down slightly.
Right.
Businesses did not. There was not like epidemic of business going out of business. McDonald's did not have to increase the price of the Happy Meal by $40 or anything like that. You seem to imply that Alameda is different.
No.
That if we were to increase the minimum wage beyond what it is now to more of what an Emeryville style minimum wage, that we would suffer the consequences that have never been proven to happen, because when working people have more money, they spend it, particularly in local markets.
Sure. I think we just went through a long process to look at our minimum wage, and I think to turn around and reopen up that process right now and just duplicate the work that literally was just finalized 6 months ago may not be the best place to put our efforts. There is a point at which the minimum wage does get too high and there are negative impacts. $15, long before Seattle ever adopted $15, most economists who look at wages and whatever else were agreeing that $15 would likely not be above that threshold. But I do think, I would be a little loath to compare 80,000, person city in Alameda in the midst of a 4 million person mega region to the large city in the mega region, right? The Seattle, home to most, a lot of the jobs, etc. I think there's a reason that San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose have led the initial way. Emeryville is its own special beast. There's a reason that Emeryville has a lot of the shops it has that we don't have, because it is a place in which people can easily get to and whatnot. Alameda is, I think it's part of the charm that we like, is we are just a little off the beaten path, right? You literally don't drive through our town as you're going somewhere. So you have to really go out of your way to come here. So, I would want to be careful about that. We haven't even started stepping up our minimum wage yet, so I would like to, see that start to happen. When we get to 15, we can definitely start talking about, should we go higher?
So you mentioned climate change
Yes.
and rising sea levels.
Yes.
What can Alameda do?
Well, we can complete our climate change and sea level rise adaptation plan that was kicked off. It's coming back to the council for its first draft review in March, and I think that we can make sure that that plan is very comprehensive, outlines the real needs that we have, and gives us a policy background for actually engaging at the regional level and ensuring that our voice and our needs are heard. And because we're an island, we do not fit easily into a sea level adaptation policy framework. We're an easy place to say, well, unfortunately, they're outside the region, the regional needs. They don't have freeways. They don't have an airport. We have to spend our money to protect that. Defending an island means that we're really going to have to defend Alameda on its own, and we need to figure out a way to make the case to the region that we matter to.
Do you think there's a big hurdle towards positive change? What do you think it is, the biggest hurdle?
Biggest hurdle?
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest hurdle to positive change for me, from what I've seen in Alameda, is trying to do everything right now. And I think that we're going to, sometime in February or March, we're going to be having a priorities setting workshop, and I'd like to see us as a council really look at defining specific priorities for staff in each programmatic area, and then really commit to trying to stick to that. I think we have had at times a lot of referrals that ended up taking up a lot of staff time that may have pulled us away from what the city had identified as key goals at the beginning of the year.
Is there anything that you did not mention before as a policy goal that you hope to see during these meetings brought up? Or if you want to delve specifically into one of them.
Look, I would like to see the way our city runs itself become a little bit more, I'm not sure if the word professional is the right way, but I think that over the last 4 years, 6 years, the way our city boards and commissions have been used has really fallen by the wayside. We have these boards and commissions that hold hearings and are supposed to do work for the city council and make recommendations, and then when the work comes to the city council, it's almost as if that hearing process begins again. And I would like to see us really have the work being done by the boards and commissions that we appoint, and with them understanding what our goals are, so that they are helping to develop recommendations for us based on the values and policy positions that we have, so that when projects are brought forward to us, we can really have confidence that the boards and commissions are approving projects that are in line with that. I think that the boards and commissions should all have the same rules. I don't think every board and commission should make up its own rules so that people who try to interact with its government don't know, do I get 2 minutes here, 5 minutes here, 3 minutes there, what is the order of business, etc. I think these are some easy things that we could do, and then I think also I'd like to see the city really put together a public outreach plan that really sets goals and expectations for how we outreach to the public about public projects. I think that too often the public outreach comes too late or is only done to certain sections of the public. I think we need to think about how we can engage people in ways that don't expect them to come to City Hall at 7 o'clock at night, because a lot of people work and have kids and have lives, or just want to go have dinner and are not going to prioritize going to meetings like that. But I think that there are, I appreciate that the city has done some polling work and work around online engagement and whatever else, but I think that there's probably some trainings and things that could also be done to make sure that the information we're pulling out of polls and whatnot is really actionable, and that we can understand that just because 2,000 people answer a poll doesn't mean that we're talking to the island. We might be just talking to 2,000 people who have the free time to get online and answer some questions, and that the questions we're asking might actually be geared towards a completely different section of the population, people who are not the people who fill out online polls. So I just think I would like to see us be a little bit more proactive in that sense.
Oakland is doing emergency housing for homeless people. There's 4 of them. They call this emergency housing sheds.
Yep.
Have you heard about that? Do you have an opinion about that?
And go ahead and talk to me while you
Okay, I was going to ask where you want me to answer that question. Have I thought about it? I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. It seems like it might be working, but I'd like to see a little bit more information about that. We just heard. We just held a hearing Tuesday night on the HEAPS funding, which is the homeless emergency funding, and there was strong support for the idea of Alameda finding ongoing daytime and nighttime housing in our city. So whether that's tough sheds, whether that's looking at the Carnegie Library, which has been empty, since I moved here in 2000. Is there a way that we can declare an emergency like Berkeley did and decide that, the risk of people not having homes and living on the street is greater than the seismic risk of living in a non-seismically retrofitted building, and turn that into a day shelter, a navigation center, whatever that is. I would totally support looking at that.
The second thing I have is, it's to put a context, it's a book, I think it's called Smart Citizens, Smarter Government. It's a woman who's the technology officer in Obama's administration talking about how you can restructure government to to be more responsive. So anyway, when I heard you talking about the issue of having the city commissions more workable, do you have some more concrete steps you'd like to take in terms of reforming them that you could talk about?
Probably not. I mean, I think any major reforms would need to we would need to go out to the community and talk about that a little bit. I think we need to look at it. One of the things I think that people don't understand is how small our city staff is. So while it's easier for a city of San Francisco or the department at the SFMTA where I work has twice as many employees. The department, not the agency. The department has twice as many employees as the entire city of San Francisco of Alameda. We are lean. When we look at technology, we have 3 or 4 people who are working on all the technology needs for the city. So they're rolling out the Wi-Fi, they're making sure that people's emails work, etc. We need to find ways to partner with people to get to better solutions, but we also have to understand that sometimes we're going to have to look and let other people lead on some of those things. I'm all for tech, but I think that tech is both freeing and sometimes limits new people. But I'm open to looking at it. I haven't spent a lot of time on that, on restructuring the way in which our boards and commissions work. I think I've been thinking more about their role in providing information, collecting information, synthesizing that into something that meets what the city's goals and are as defined by the city council. But I'd be open to it.
Is there anything that we did not talk about that you wanted to add for the closing remarks?
All right, this is where you get the funny mug shots, I think. Sorry.
It's the memeable face.
Right, here's your chance.
No, I mean, look, you asked me at the beginning of this, do I feel I have a mandate? Do I feel that the number of people who voted for me allows me to just go out and do what I want to do, et cetera? As I said, that my style is to kind of, I'm going to go out and talk to people about the issues that I think are important and that we should be moving forward. I think that the national tenor of our political discussion is really starting to, is very much seep down into our local politics, where it's a very different thing, right? We know each other, we see each other at the stores, et cetera. I'm the first person to admit that, much younger, when I first got involved in a lot of this stuff, it was really easy to get online and be sassy and snarky and whatnot, and still be sassy with the best of them. But I think that the more that we can all also try to hear what people are saying and understand the concerns from people, we may disagree on the policy outcomes, but at least understanding where people are coming from and not assuming their motivations will help us get to the good solutions that I think the majority of Alamedans want to see, right? The wellness center at the end of over on McKay that's being proposed, where we have a small group of private property owners who are trying to protect their own. I would say, not in a meaningful way.
You need to take a moment to regather your thoughts. All right.
Not,
No, it happens. It happens when you're in front of camera, where you'll just can't talk. But just take a second. We can edit that.
Okay. I think an example is at McKay, where they are where we have a small group of property owners who are opposing a wellness center for the homeless, and we all know that there's a homeless crisis happening right now. What we need right now is centers for homeless seniors and care and whatnot. We can hear, and we can try and we should be trying to hear the concerns of those property owners up and to the point where they're just trying to build a park there because it'll enhance their own personal property values while they push the problem into another neighborhood that's not theirs. I think that's a place where we can say, well, okay, we're going to agree to disagree on that and try to move the conversation forward. But there are valid concerns that people have. They may not be based in what's going to actually happen there, but we can work together to find common ground to make sure that those problems don't come to fruition. And I think in doing that work and in listening to people and really trying to hear what their concerns are and show that we're actually working together in partnership to solve them, we will get to that solution of a wellness center much faster than if we just say, oh, you're against this, you're bad. I'm going to say you're an idiot and push people to the side.
Right.
And I think for all issues, if we try to take that approach, I think 2 years, 4 years from now, we're going to have a lot of successes because I think we're going to have brought people along on the journey. We're going to have shown people that we're not just bulldozing and uncaring and ideologues who are just trying to steamroll over them and their feelings.
Vice Mayor and City Council Member John Knox White, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.